Struggling to differentiate a primary tooth from a permanent one? Stop guessing. So, hi guys, I'm Dr. Smiley, and in the next few minutes, we are doing a high yield breakdown of the 25 key differences between the primary and permanent teeth. So, this question, which is the primary dentition versus permanent dentition, is a frequently asked PYQ in pedodontics as well as in dental anatomy and dental histology. So, let's get into it. So, as stated before, we have 25 differences. So, how do we remember all these 25 points at once without getting confused? So, I have a trick for you. We divide these 25 differences into three categories. The first one being general category, in which we have 6 differences. The second one being the crown category, which is the differences in the crown of permanent and primary teeth, in which we have 15 differences. And we divide these 15 differences into anatomical differences and histological differences. And lastly, we have root. So the differences between the roots of permanent and primary teeth. We have 4 differences. So let's continue. So talking about the general differences, right? So we have 6 points here. The first point is the synonym. What is primary dentition or the primary teeth also known as? They are known as milk teeth, shedding teeth or deciduous teeth. We all know that, right? And permanent teeth are also known as succedaneous teeth and secondary teeth. The total number of teeth, as we know, is 20. There are 20 primary teeth and there are 32 permanent teeth, which is including the third molar. Now the color of the teeth. Primary teeth are milky white in color. Okay, and the permanent teeth are yellowish white in color. Why the color difference? This question is frequently asked in Viva, that why do permanent teeth look grayish or yellowish white and not milky white? So the answer to this is that the dentine is thicker in permanent teeth and the enamel is more translucent. Therefore, the permanent teeth appears more yellowish white, right? As you can see here, the primary teeth appears to be milky white, whereas the permanent teeth appears to be yellowish white, right? Why? Because the enamel is translucent and the dentine is thicker in permanent tooth. So we have seen 3 factors, which is the synonym, then we have the total number of teeth, and then we have the color. Let's go to the next, which is the gross dimension. It is so simple. The gross dimension of primary teeth will be smaller. Why? Because the jaws are smaller, teeth will also be smaller, and the permanent tooth will have a larger dimension. Since the jaws are larger, the gross dimension will be larger. Okay, then coming to the notation. So we know there are many notations, many tooth numbering systems, but the two we used commonly are the FDI and the Zsigmondy system. In FDI, the central incisor, okay, all the central incisors. The central incisors are numbered as 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, all 4 central incisors. And in permanent dentition, the central incisors are notated as 1-1, 2-1, 3-1 and 4-1, right? Now talking about the Zsigmondy system. In Zsigmondy system we use the plus sign, right? And for primary tooth we use alphabets, whereas for permanent tooth we used numbers, okay? And primary tooth we used alphabets. So A, B, C, D, E, which notates central incisor, lateral incisor, canine, first molar and second molar respectively. And in permanent dentition, we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which stands for central incisors, lateral incisor, canine, first premolar, second premolar, first molar, second molars, and there will be 8 also for third molars respectively, right? Now the sequence of eruption. So the sequence of eruption, we all know the first tooth to erupt in primary dentition is the central incisors, to be exact, the lower central incisors, right? And the first teeth to erupt in permanent dentition is the first permanent molar, right? So the sequence of eruption for primary teeth in maxilla is A, B, D, C, E, as well as in mandible it's the same A, B, D, C, E. A stands for central incisors, B stands for lateral incisors, D stands for first primary molars, C stands for canine, and E stands for second primary molars. Talking about the permanent dentition, it starts from 6. So how do you remember this? This is very easy to remember. Make it in 3 parts. 6, 1, 2 remains the same for maxilla and mandible. 7, 8 remains same for maxilla and mandible. The only difference is in the 3 digits in between. In mandible, we have it in line. After 2, there is 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Easy. Mandible is easier. In maxilla, just the only thing that changes is the 3, which should be after 2, goes behind, and 4 and 5 shifts forward. So we have 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, 7, 8. I hope you understand. So let's see the diagrammatic representation for general features. As we know, we saw 6 features. The first one was synonyms. So the primary teeth are also known as deciduous, milk teeth, shedding teeth. Permanent teeth are also known as secondary or the succedaneous teeth. The second we saw were the number of teeth. So primary teeth, they are how many in number? They are 20 in number. They are total of 20 in number, whereas the permanent teeth are 32 in number. The third we saw the color of the teeth. Here the color of the teeth is milky white, whereas the permanent teeth are yellowish white. Why they are yellowish white? Remember I told you the enamel is translucent and the dentine, layer of dentine is thicker. Therefore it appears more yellowish. Okay. So, and the fourth factor, what we did in the fourth factor was the gross dimension. See, this is small and these are of comparatively larger dimension, right? These are of smaller dimension, these are of larger dimension. Fifth came the notation system. For example, it is the first right lat central incisor, then the FDI notation for the permanent central incisor, maxillary, permanent maxillary central right incisor will be 5-1, and in Zsigmondy it would be plus sign and A. Talking about the permanent central maxillary right incisor, so it will be 1-1 and plus sign and 1. Last factor, what do we saw? We saw that it was the sequence of eruption. So the sequence of eruption, we remember it. For primary, it is AB, DCE for both maxilla and mandible. And for permanent, it is 612, 453, 78 for maxilla, 612, 345, 78 for mandible. Let's get to the second part, which is the crown. Okay, so as we discussed earlier that in crown we are going to see certain anatomical differences and certain histological differences, right? So now what are these anatomical differences which we are going to see in the crown? They are the mesiodistal or cervico-occlusal dimension of the crown. Then we have the buccolingual convergence of the crown. Then we have the occlusal plane, the cervical ridge of the crown, the cervical constrictions, the contact between teeth. Remember, and then the mammalions and the molar size. Remember, all these three begins from C. So we can name it as C3. Mammalions and molars start from M. We can name them as M2. And these three, which are based on the dimensions, we can name this as BOM, BOM. Okay? Now, BOM C3 M2. You can remember it this way, which are the crown's anatomical features based on which we are going to differentiate primary and permanent dentition. So, talking about the anatomical differences. The first we have is the mesiodistal and cervico-occlusal dimension of the crown. In primary dentition, the crowns are wider cervico-occlusally, right? So the cervico-occlusal dimension is a little more than the mesiodistal dimension. What do we mean? If this is a crown, like this something, we have a better diagram ahead. But just for your understanding, the cervico-occlusal dimension will be more in primary dentition, whereas the mesiodistal dimension will be more in the permanent dentition. Here the crowns are wider mesiodistally, right? Now, what is the clinical significance of it? From now on, we'll see the clinical significance of each factor. Now, since the primary teeth are wider cervico-occlusally and not mesiodistally, therefore the dimensions of the cavity prepared in primary teeth will be smaller. And this is very basic thing. What we saw earlier in general features, that the gross dimensions of the primary teeth are smaller than permanent teeth, right? If the primary teeth are smaller than permanent teeth, then the dimensions of the cavity prepared in primary teeth will also be smaller. It's very simple, right? Then we have the buccolingual convergence. Talking about the buccolingual convergence, there is more buccolingual convergence in primary teeth and there is less convergence in permanent teeth. Now, what is this buccolingual convergence? Suppose this is the buccal aspect of the crown and this is the lingual aspect of the crown. So they converge, right? They converge towards the occlusal surface. So this buccolingual convergence is more in primary teeth. If there is more buccolingual convergence, the occlusal table is narrow. And since there is less convergence in permanent teeth, the occlusal table is larger. We are going to see the diagram for both. But now, what is the clinical significance? From this, we come to know that the primary teeth have narrow occlusal table, whereas the permanent teeth has larger occlusal table. Due to this, the width of the cavity prepared in primary teeth will be smaller than permanent teeth, right? Then the permanent teeth. Let's see it in the diagrammatical representation. So here we are seeing the buccal aspect of the first molars. Of course, this is the primary teeth, this is the permanent teeth. So as said earlier, the cervico-occlusal dimension, this is the cervico-occlusal dimension of the primary teeth is more than the mesiodistal dimension, right? They are wider, the primary teeth are wider cervico-occlusally. Talking about the permanent teeth, these permanent teeth are wider mesiodistally. Okay. Now, also we talked about the buccolingual convergence. So let's see the buccolingual convergence. This is your primary teeth, this is your permanent teeth, right? Now we are seeing a buccolingual view, right? We are seeing a buccolingual view. So here the buccolingual convergence, as you see it here, this is the buccal convergence, this is the lingual convergence. It leads to narrow occlusal table. Okay, here the buccal and lingual convergence is comparatively less. So here we have a larger occlusal table. Is that clear? Coming to the next points. Next we have the occlusal plane. The occlusal plane in primary dentition is flatter. It is more curved in permanent dentition. Like what we talk is the curve of Spee. The teeth are like this, arranged like this. The teeth are arranged like this. So therefore, what is the clinical significance? Is that occlusal correction is easier in primary teeth compared to the permanent teeth, right? Talking about the cervical ridge, I hope we all know what cervical ridge is. Cervical ridge is the ridge present in the cervical 1/3 of the tooth. For example, if this is your tooth, then the cervical ridge is a ridge present in the cervical 1/3, right? Now the cervical ridge is prominent and pronounced in the primary teeth, whereas it's flatter and not as prominent in the permanent teeth. Due to this, the retentive form of the stainless steel crown is enhanced in the primary teeth. I hope we are clear here. Okay, there is a ridge and there is improved retention of stainless steel crown due to this ridge. When we sit a crown on it, a crown is seated on it, there is improved retention compared to the permanent teeth. Talking about the cervical constrictions. So what is basically the cervical constriction? The crown in the cervical part is constricted, right? So which type of teeth have more cervical constrictions? So the cervical constrictions are more in primary teeth and comparatively less in permanent teeth. Now what happens due to more constriction? It leads, due to more constrictions, the primary teeth has the bulbous crown form. What do you mean by bulbous crown form? That it is bulbous like this. The teeth forms are like this. Okay. Now due to this bulbous crown form, there is enhancement of the stainless steel crown retention. Also, since it is bulbous, we have to take care while preparing class 2 cavities. Why? See, for example, if in this type of tooth we are preparing class 2 cavity, here we go, then we prepare a proximal box. But if the proximal box goes deep, then eventually we'll lose the proximal seat, proximal gingival seat. So what does it means when you are preparing class 2 in primary teeth? We have to take care in cases of deep proximal boxes because it leads to narrow gingival seat. Okay, the deeper you go, the narrow the gingival seat becomes, and if you go more deeper, you will lose it, right? So you have to take care of it. Similarly, we see it here. What did we talk about? We talk about the cervical constrictions. So here, do you see in primary teeth you have cervical constrictions here like this, but in primary teeth you don't have it. You have it less. They are comparatively lesser compared to primary teeth and permanent teeth. Okay, and talking about the cervical ridge, so here there will be a cervical ridge which will be more prominent and which will enhance the retention of the stainless steel crown. So we saw the narrow occlusal table, we saw the cervical ridge, cervical constrictions. Okay, now we'll see the contact area further, right? So the contact area in the primary teeth are larger, broader and located gingivally. Okay, where it is located gingivally. Whereas the contact area in permanent teeth are smaller, narrower and they are located occlusally. These are the main factors, main differentiation factors in the crown. So the contact between teeth, we saw earlier, the contact in the primary teeth are broader, flatter and located gingivally, whereas the contact in the permanent teeth are narrower and located occlusally. Now, what happens due to these contact points? Okay, so the clinical significance is relatively larger class 2 cavity can be prepared in primary teeth compared to the permanent teeth. Basically, since the contacts are broader, okay, and in class 2 cavity we have to break the contact, in class 2 cavity, right? Do we remember that? Break the contact in class 2 cavities. So since the contact area is broader in primary teeth, so the class 2 cavity prepared in primary teeth are larger compared to the permanent teeth, right? Talking about the mammalions, so mammalions are absent in primary teeth and they are present in permanent teeth. Why they are absent? Because the formation occurs from a single globule. Okay, now if you don't know what mammalions are, so mammalions are basically rounded protuberances seen on the incisal surface of the primary teeth. Sorry, incisal surface of the anterior teeth, right? Mammalions are the rounded protuberances seen on the occlusal, incisal surface of the anterior teeth. They are absent in primary teeth and they are present in permanent teeth. Why present in permanent teeth? Because during the formation, three globules fuses with the palatal globule to form the anterior teeth. Therefore, these mammalions are present in the permanent teeth and they are not present in primary teeth. Talking about the first molars, right? First molars, this is basically about the size. So talking about first molar, the first molar is smaller than the second molar in primary teeth, whereas the first molar is larger than the second molar in permanent teeth. Basically, in primary dentition, the second molar are larger. In permanent dentition, the first molars are larger. Also, the significance is that the first permanent molar is the key to occlusion in permanent dentition. We have learned angles classification. So, it says that first permanent molar is the key to occlusion, right? Let's begin with the next part, which is the histological differences of the crown. So there will be three differences we are going to study of the hard tissues and four differences of the soft tissues. So there are three hard tissue differences and there are four soft tissue differences. Right? Now in hard tissue differences, we have enamel thickness and uniformity. Then we have enamel rods and mineralization of the hard tissues. In soft tissues, we have the pulp chamber, the pulp horn, the vascularity and cellularity, and the density of density of nerve innervation. So yes, let's begin. Talking about the histological differences. So first we have enamel thickness and uniformity. Now as you know, in primary dentition, the gross dimension of the teeth is smaller. So the enamel is less thicker and it is less uniform. In permanent teeth, the gross dimension of teeth is larger. So the enamel is more thicker and more uniform. Simple, right? So the enamel thickness, now why is this enamel thickness important? Because the enamel thickness contributes to variation in the cavity preparation. Now for example, if in permanent dentition the enamel is thicker, so deeper cavity can be prepared in permanent dentition, and in primary dentition the enamel is thinner, so Shallow cavities have to be prepared in primary dentation, right? So the depth of the cavity varies. The depth of the cavity varies due to the thickness of enamel, right? Now talking about the enamel rods, this is one of the most important features which we need to remember, and this is a Viva question. So the enamel rods are directed occlusally in the cervical area in primary dentation, whereas they are directed gingivally in the permanent dentation. We are talking only about the cervical area. Let's see. Okay, so let's see this. So in the cervical area in primary teeth, they are directed occlusally, whereas they are directed gingivally or horizontally in permanent teeth. Now, what is the significance of it? The significance of it is whenever we prepare a cavity, for example, if we prepare a class 2 cavity, there will be a certain amount of unsupported enamel which has to be removed. So this is the unsupported enamel present over here which has to be removed. Therefore, we give gingival bevel. What do? We give gingival bevel. So what is the importance of knowing the direction of enamel rods? That is, if we prepare a class 2 cavity, if we prepare a class 2 cavity in primary teeth, we don't have to give gingival bevel. But if you prepare a class 2 cavity in permanent teeth, you have to give a gingival bevel to remove the unsupported enamel. We have to give this gingival bevel here like this to remove the unsupported enamel, right? Why? Because if some unsupported enamel will be present, like here, if this unsupported enamel is present, what it's going to do, it's going to fracture the teeth and cause unwanted complications, right? So coming back to it, the enamel rods are directed occlusally in the cervical area in primary teeth, and they are directed gingivally in the permanent teeth. So what happens? We have to give a gingival bevel. It's placed to remove the unsupported enamel in class 2 cavities in the permanent teeth. I hope we are clear. Okay, the diagrams represent it, and also the thickness of enamel. Here we can see obviously the thickness of enamel is less in primary teeth and more in permanent teeth, right? So the depth of the cavity differs accordingly. The depth of the cavity will be more in primary teeth and it will be less in permanent teeth. Moving further, mineralization. So mineralization, enamel and dentine are less mineralized, whereas the enamel and dentine are more mineralized in primary teeth compared to permanent teeth, right? Talking about the pulp chamber. So what do we say? In primary teeth, we have larger pulp chambers, okay, compared to the crown. But in permanent teeth, we have smaller pulp chambers compared to the crown. What happens due to this is there is faster involvement of pulp in primary teeth. They are larger. For example, if this is your crown and this is your pulp chamber, this pulp chamber is larger in primary tooth. So if caries begin somewhat here, there is a faster involvement of pulp in primary teeth. Okay, talking about the pulp horns. So pulp horns are situated higher in primary teeth and they are situated lower in permanent teeth. So what happens due to this? Due to this, there are chances of exposure of pulp during caries removal, right? Chances of exposure of pulp horn is more in primary teeth compared to permanent teeth. Why? Because in primary teeth, these pulp horns are situated higher. Let's see in a diagrammatic representation. Yeah. So talking about the pulp chamber first. So here we can see that the pulp chamber is larger. We have a larger pulp chamber. Okay, so what happens whenever there is a carious involvement of teeth? Since the pulp chamber is larger, there will be faster involvement of pulp, right? Whereas if there is caries, there will be slow involvement of pulp. Yeah, the involvement of pulp will take at a later stage, right? Now talking about the pulp horn. So the pulp horn, see, this is the pulp horn. See, we can see here, these are the pulp horns. So these pulp horns in primary teeth are higher, near to the dentine, near to the enamel and dentine, right? So they are higher near to the enamel and dentine. So whenever we prepare a cavity, for example, if we are preparing a cavity to remove this, there are chances of the exposure of the pulp, right? There are chances of the exposure of the pulp. Let's see in a clean thing. Okay. So if I am doing a cavity preparation here and I go normally like this, there are chances I might expose the pulp. Why? Because these pulp horns are situated higher towards the enamel area, right? So do we get it? This is the pulp chambers. We are seeing that these are the pulp chambers marked in green. And then this is the pulp horn. Both the sides, pulp horn situated higher in primary teeth, situated lower in permanent teeth. Pulp chamber larger in primary teeth, comparatively smaller in permanent teeth, right? Now, getting to the next. Talking about the vascularity and cellularity, it's very simple. The pulp chambers are larger in primary teeth, so there is increased cellularity and vascularity in primary teeth, and there is a relatively less vascularity and cellularity in permanent teeth. It's as simple as that. The pulp is smaller in permanent teeth, so therefore the vascularity and cellularity is less, whereas in permanent teeth the pulp is larger, so therefore vascularity and cellularity are higher, right? So due to this, what happens in primary tooth, there is better cellularity, okay, which means the ability to reproduce cells is more, right, which leads to better repair potential. So primary tooth have better repair potential compared to the permanent tooth. Why? Because there is larger pulp, there is more cellularity, okay. And however, the increased vascularity leads to faster spread of infection. We all know blood is the way through which the infection spreads. Okay, so there is increased vascularity and there is increased spread of infection. There is faster spread of infection compared to the permanent tooth. Talking about the density of the nerve innervations, it's less in primary tooth and it's more in permanent tooth, right? So the last part, we have the root-based differences, which are four root-based differences. Now the first is the furcation and root trunk. We need to know what is the furcation. So for example, if this is your crown, the root starts, the first part of the root is the root trunk, and the furcation is the part where the root trunk divides into roots. So this is the furcation area. This is the furcation area and this is the root trunk, right? This is the root trunk and this is the furcation area. So the furcation is placed more cervically in primary teeth. Cervically matlab towards the crown, and the furcation is located more apically in permanent teeth. What do you mean by apical? Apical means towards the root. So therefore there is shorter root trunk in primary teeth and larger root trunk in permanent teeth. Let's see it in a diagrammatic representation. Okay, so this is a primary teeth and this is a permanent teeth. So this is a furcation area, this is the furcation area. So now in primary teeth, this furcation is located cervically, which means towards the crown. You can see here it is more towards the crown, right? Therefore the root trunk, this part which is a root trunk from here till here, this is a root trunk, right? So the root trunk becomes shorter, whereas in permanent teeth the furcation area is located more apically towards the root. You can see this, it is here somewhere, which is near the root. Therefore the root trunk becomes larger. You can see the difference, right? In the red it is marked, the root trunk is marked in red, and you can see the clear difference. It is shorter here and it is larger here. Now what happens, what is the clinical significance of it? What happens if there is a shorter root trunk and what happens if there is a larger root trunk? So in primary teeth there are more chances of perforation during excess cavity preparation. Why? Let's see. For example, now we are going to prepare excess cavity in these teeth. We are preparing a cavity. Here there is pulp. We go on preparing the cavity. We remove it. And there are chances of perforation because it's very short. You can perforate the furcation area. From here to here, you can perforate it with air rotor. Whereas in permanent teeth, even if you are preparing the excess cavity and even if you go deep, there are less chances that you will perforate the furcation area. Okay. The next difference is the root resorption. So the primary teeth undergoes physiologic resorption. The resorption of the teeth will occur, right? Why will it occur? So that the permanent teeth can erupt. But in permanent dentition, the root does not get resorbed. If any resorption of root is seen, it's always pathological, right? Moving further, we have flaring of roots. So the roots in primary teeth, they are longer, slender, which is thin, and they are more flared. Whereas the root in permanent teeth are shorter, bulkier and they are less flared. Now the question is why there is more flaring of roots. For example, if this is the roots, they are very much flared. Okay, here the crown will come. Sorry for my bad diagrams, but the roots are flared. Now why these roots are flared? So that the permanent teeth can be present between these root. Let's see it diagrammatically. In the green color, you can see the flaring of roots, the space between two roots. It's more. So the flaring is more in primary teeth as compared to the permanent teeth. Why the flaring is more? Because the permanent teeth is present somewhere between the roots of the primary teeth. Therefore, there is more flaring of the primary teeth. Sorry, there is more flaring of the roots in primary teeth than in permanent teeth. Basically, it is to accommodate the permanent teeth. Talking about the accessory canals, so the accessory canals are usually located in the furcal areas in primary teeth, whereas they are located in the apical 1/3 of the root in the permanent teeth. Let's see it here. So you can see these are the accessory canals, right? The accessory canals are present here and here. So the accessory canals are more in the furcal areas. So therefore the spread of infection is more in the furcation area, right? The spread of infection will be more over here, which is called as furcal areas, and the spread of infection here is called as dentoalveolar abscess, right? So in primary teeth, the accessory canals are present more in the furcal areas. Okay, there are more accessory canals in furcal areas, which will lead to dentoalveolar abscess. There is more chances of the dentoalveolar abscess in primary teeth, and there is interradicular radiolucency seen, right? There is interradicular radiolucency commonly seen in primary teeth. Whereas in permanent teeth, we have more apical accessory canals. The accessory canals are located more apically. So since there are more accessory canal in apical areas, so the spread of infection is always periapical in this region, right? So there is more of periapical abscess seen in permanent teeth. Periapical abscess seen in permanent teeth, and therefore we see periapical radiolucency in permanent teeth, right? So don't forget this. This is a very important viva question, that why do you see dentoalveolar abscess in primary teeth? Okay, why it is common in primary teeth? So your answer is, in primary teeth there are numerous accessory canals located in the furcal area. So the spread of infection is more in the furcal area, leading to the dentoalveolar abscess. Whereas in permanent teeth, the accessory canals are present in the apical area. So the periapical abscess is more common in the permanent teeth, right? We are not forgetting this at all. This is the most important viva question in periodontics. With this, we come to the end of our lecture. I hope you like it. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, and goodbye.